Welcome back to the Sweet Take. We have so much to unpack from an incredibly exciting Baku race. Michael, our predictions, I don't think we could have gotten them more wrong. Neither of us were anywhere close to being right. But what an exciting race. I think the best race this whole year.
Yeah, we were hopeless. So to remind everyone, I think you had Lando winning from Oscar and Charles.
Lando, Charles, Max.
And Charles, no. Well, Max, at least you got one of them in there. I think I had Oscar, Lando, Lewis, or Charles. Anyway, this is the thing with Formula One at the moment. It is super, super close. And on Friday, the Ferraris were on top. Yeah, the gaps between the cars are a lot smaller than they've ever been before. But still, it was a very, very topsy-turvy race. The tagline for Baku is expect the unexpected. And even though this race was a little bit duller by Baku standards, there was a lot going on this weekend.
If you have ever considered going to a race, I know Baku, Azerbaijan might not be somewhere that you've done a lot of research on, but if you want to go an F1 race, it is incredible. And they've just renewed it to 2030. Consider it because the racing action is so good. I mean, that quali, 2 hours of quali, I think the quali was longer than the race itself. Six red flags, I think five or six crashes, like literally on the edge of my seat watching that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant place to come for Formula One. You can, for the most part, get an affordable hotel or apartment in walking distance of the track. You can walk into most bars on a Friday or Saturday night and have space. It's unlike any other Formula One experience you'll have. I think it has the smallest amount of attendees, but everyone who does come is fully festive and it's an amazing atmosphere. So Baku, from a fan's point of view, is one of the number one destinations. And it's very different. It's a very, very different city to where we go normally.
So, Michael, what do you think about Max Verstappen? Back to back wins, back to back P1s. Are we seeing the resurgence of Max Verstappen and Red Bull? And is it too early to call that he's going to be somehow involved in the title fight for the drivers?
So there is something clicking now at Red Bull. For a few races at the start of the year, you felt that there was this disconnect. Everyone was saying that they were building the car for Max, but even Max was saying he didn't like the direction the car was going. It now feels like he has a little bit more involvement in how it's set up. Yuki has involvement in how his car is set up as well. And both of them seem to be doing better. There's a little bit more togetherness at Red Bull, and that's paying dividends. You don't go from having a car that wins 23 out of 24 races to a car that is struggling in a couple of seasons. So there was something that wasn't quite working, and maybe they've turned a corner. Quite a long way off Oscar, but if he keeps closing the gap by 25 points a race, could be exciting.
Yeah, back to back wins and both super dominant. I mean, there are some similarities between Monza and Baku in terms of it being low downforce tracks. And I'm already hearing him trying to manage expectations for Singapore, which is a high downforce track, the higher speed corners, which the Red Bull has not done as well in. But, Max is Max. I'm sure somewhere, somehow, he's going to pull out some ridiculous lap and maybe end up on pole again. But he finished Monza 20 seconds ahead, and then he finished Baku 16 seconds ahead. Like these are dominant performances.
Yeah. He was miles ahead of everyone. It was staggering to see. The gap between him was larger than the gap between I think any other two cars, or at least it felt that way when I was photographing them. It just seemed, he would be turning the corner at turn one, and you hadn't seen the next car appearing at the top of the straight. So yeah, very, very dominant, and he's driving well. He's qualifying well. He's doing everything very, very well, like Max of old. So yeah, it is definitely going to be interesting. He's definitely putting his name in the hat. He's never won in Singapore. Checo won a few years ago in a Red Bull, so they're not unfamiliar with winning in the city. But yeah, it's not one that Max has shone at yet.
And Yuki had a good showing, like you said, P6, his best of the year in Red Bull. And it's nice to see him gaining more confidence and a bit more pep in his step. You can kind of tell like there's more positivity in like his voice and the way that he's talking about how like the weekend is developing. So he needs it. He needs to put in some star performances because it sounds like Isaac is moving to Red Bull next year and Liam and Yuki are duking it out for a Racing Bull seat.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's a really funny moment when they did the team celebration. Max's grandmother was in the middle of the photograph. So what they normally do is they normally do one cheers, and then they spray Red Bull over each other. But his grandmother was right in the middle of them, so they had to get her out of the way. And then they went crazy. Everyone was gunning for Yuki. He ran away, and about five or six of the team members were trying to hunt him down and cover him in Red Bull. So, yeah, he's definitely a very popular member of the squad, and I think everyone is very happy to see him do well. They're going to have a problem with working out who has to drive where next year. So we'll see what they come up with.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. Didn't they say Arvin Lindblad is in contention for the second Racing Bull seat? And remind me, was that part of your predictions when we did this a few weeks back?
Yes, yeah. He hasn't been getting the results in F2 though. So it might be a case that they give him an extra season. He is very young, so they might give him an extra season, and then that solves part of the problem. But they just have to work out which driver goes where, because Liam Lawson also had another good good weekend, third in qualifying and a really good result in the race. All three of those drivers are starting to put their hands up and sort of competing for that place. It makes it very hard for them to choose.
Yeah, well, this makes good entertainment for all of us and also better racing. Everyone's super motivated to prove themselves as we go into the back half of the year. Obviously, Michael, we have to talk about McLaren and Oscar Piastri. I was shocked he crashed into the wall in quali, and then even more shocked when he crashed in the race in the first corner, had the false start. It was just like a series of unfortunate events, and you never see Oscar make mistakes. So to see him make back to back, like big session ending mistakes was really unlike him.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. He doesn't normally crash. He doesn't normally make mistakes. I think Australia was the last time he's gone off the track. Yeah, he's usually Mr. Consistent. So it was very, very surprising to see him end up that way. And you do have to wonder if Lando missed a chance of closing the gap. He got 6 points, but he really would have wanted to have nailed home the advantage. The McLaren did look like the third or fourth fastest car all weekend. It's not an unsurprising position that he ended up in, but it's a missed opportunity, I think, definitely.
Total missed opportunity. I think he was definitely gunning for it in quali. He clipped the wall at the end, which compromised his lap, but he was on for a heater and probably, if he made it work, maybe make it on pole. And I'm not sure how this street track compares to the others, Michael, in terms of it being more narrow and tough to pass, but it just seemed like there was a lot of DRS trains and then he couldn't really advance. Obviously, dirty air was a factor. Then he had the slow pit stop, so that didn't help either. But I 100% agree with you. Complete missed opportunity to close the points gap to Oscar.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because they have these long straight, well, there's long straight, and there are other straights around the track, but the way it funnels the drivers into those narrow streets, it really kind of strings them out. So the difference that you need between your car and the car in front of you is actually quite a big margin. And they didn't seem to have the tire degradation. It seems to be very, very kind on tires. They were well into the late 40s driving on mediums without any signs of degradations. This is why it can be a dull race. It allows for processions of cars. There's very few overtaking opportunities. Turn one, the turn three straight is another one. Yeah. He didn't seem to have the ability to push the car forward.
Well, the highlight for me this weekend was Carlos Sainz. On the podium, P3, he sang Smooth Operator in the car on his in lap in. He talked about how this was the most rewarding podium that he's ever had, which I thought was quite telling of kind of his mental state. And I feel maybe the pressure that he's put himself under to deliver on this midfield team. But I'm so happy for him. And I think a lot of drivers are so happy for him. He's got so many drivers were stoked that he was on the podium.
Yeah, and his podium list is quite impressive. There's a win straight after an appendix in Australia. There's that win in Mexico. It's the win in Silverstone after a very, very difficult race. He's had some epic results, but he did look happier than I've ever seen him ever. He was a 5-year-old who'd got all the candy. It was brilliant to see. I think it all comes down to his secret weapon, his unicorn sticker on the back of his helmet.
I agree too. That was so cute. I saw that, Williams, kudos to their marketing team. They are running this incredible viral campaign where fans are calling in and getting advice from Carbano. And one of them was this cute little girl where Carlos is her favorite driver. She wanted his help in naming her stuffed animals Sprinkles or Sparkles, and then asked if he could, put that unicorn sticker on his helmet. And you're right. I don't think he should ever take that off. He should almost get a tattoo.
It's definitely a lucky charm. Yeah, they brought it up in the cool down room. He was like, "Oh look, I've got this new sticker." But yeah, it was great to see, and he is one of the loveliest people in Formula One. So every time he does well, I think the whole paddock is very happy for him.
Well, I mean, he's talked about how he never saw him being dropped by Ferrari coming. And so I'm sure that was a pretty big down point in his career, not knowing, thinking he's doing well performing for the team. And then he goes to Williams. He's not making the impact as fast as he thinks he probably can. Alex is like outperforming him race after race after race. So I can see why that this podium means so much for him. He talked about you got to have your belief system, believe in your processes, the people around you, what you're doing is going to work, and then you have a day like this. So yeah, he was. I've never seen him so happy either. I saw you on TV actually, what taking photos of him at Park Ferme at the end there.
I was right between the two groups of Williams mechanics, so he jumped on the one side, then he jumped on the other side, and yeah, it was very very cool. But spare a thought for Alex because he's been grinding at that team. He's helped bring it up to where it is. He's had a string of very, very good results, but he hasn't had a podium. But you saw how he reacted. Jumped out of his car and he was there celebrating with the team. He was celebrating with Carlos when they did the team celebration. Carlos got absolutely drowned in champagne. Yeah, it was really, really fun there. But they have such unity. They have such a good thing going between them. And that whole team seems to be working in the right direction. And if you think about where they were, even when George Russell was driving for them, I think they went for a season without scoring any points. Things were quite dismal. And there was no money. The car wasn't finished on time. I remember going and photographing it in scrutineering, and the logos wouldn't line up on the bits of bodywork. It was really kind of put together on a shoestring. And now they're getting the results that we all think that they deserve.
It's a funny coincidence because their last podium was actually Lance Stroll in Baku in 2017. Well, George technically had that podium in Spa, but it was that race that
Yes.
never actually started. So I don't really count that as like an actual race finish. But their last podium was Lance Stroll Baku 2017, also in P3.
This is incredible. Wow. The COVID 2 lap spa, I don't think should really count.
No. Well, I have to do a shout out for James Vowles. I love James. He is so stoic. I feel like he is like permanently in a white dress shirt. Like that just seems like his vibe. But he cracked a smile. I wish I saw him like cry. Like he was so stoked. And he talked about how, he's been a part of many, many wins and podium finishes, but this one really stick with him. So I'm so excited for that team.
Yeah, James Vowles is everyone's dad.
Well, as we look to the last remaining races of the year, a team that really seems like they need to step up is Ferrari. Where are they in the constructors right now? Are they second or third?
Mercedes had a very good results. I think they might have overtaken them. Yeah, it's baffling what's happening at Ferrari because they looked so good on Friday. Lewis was topping the time sheets, and then they looked absolutely nowhere. Charles is usually a master of the circuit, and yeah, it just wasn't there at all. They usually run well in Singapore. It's a different configuration, so they'll have a much higher downforce car there. So maybe we'll see something a bit better from them. Possibly they're trying to get as many wind tunnel minutes as they possibly can for next season, similar to Alpine. No idea what's going on there.
And I think they seem confused. Like they talk about how they're feeling the car is getting better, it's the most progress that they're making, and then it doesn't actually convert into the result they think it's going to do on quali and on race day. It's time for them to have a weekend to bounce back, and hopefully that's Singapore.
Yeah, so when they get it right technically, something will happen and it can compromise the driver's laps. They just seem to be hitting bits of bad luck at the wrong possible time. So it's kind of compounding the situation of where they are. So even if they do make a step forward, when something like that goes wrong, it doesn't look like it reflects the progress they made.
Well, George definitely led the charge. It sounded like he was quite ill going into the weekend, but then he still comes in P2, so maybe he needs to be sick a bit more often. And maybe this performance will finally lead to his contract extension, but who knows?
Yes, yes. I was secretly hoping we'd see Valtteri drive this weekend because he's also a bit of a master around this track. I did see George on Saturday, and he looked ill, and he was coughing and so pale. When a driver has that sort of discomfort and they put out a really good race, it's really impressive. Lance after his crash, Carlos after his appendix. There's been a few very, very incredible drives after drivers haven't been well. George obviously hasn't suffered as much as either of them, but it's still very impressive.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine having all the media responsibilities, which I think he got out of because he was so sick. But then he's still working. There's prep that needs to happen with the teams, all the discussion. His brain might not be operating at 100%. Should we do some predictions for Singapore?
Ooh, okay. Well, this race has really thrown everything up in the air so much that I'm going to have to think about this. Okay, so Singapore qualifying is the most important aspect of the race. So whoever gets on pole position has a very, very good chance of keeping that throughout the race.
Honestly, the only thing I remember about last year was that Daniel Ricciardo got fired after Singapore. I don't remember the race.
Okay, right. I think I've got my top three. I'm going to go for Lando, Oscar, Max.
Hmm.
It's going to work at some point, so I'm just going to
Yeah.
go with that.
I am you know what? I'm gonna say Oscar Charles Lando, as much as it pains me to say that. But I think Oscar is gonna be fully dialed in after wanting to, change the course of this particular weekend. But I want Ferrari to bounce back. I think they need a good race, and yeah, I think 2 McLarens need to be on the podium. So that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I think the McLarens will be a lot stronger this weekend. It's probably closest to Monaco in terms of comparative tracks, and Lando was very, very good there. When he gets it right, he is very, very quick, but he's slightly more prone to touching a wall. But when he needs to, he's as fast as anyone. I think he almost has a bigger statement to make than Oscar. I think Oscar's was a little bit unlucky. He got onto some slippery part of the track and it could kind of happen to anyone. He kind of fudged his start. So, yeah, you could
Doesn't
probably
Oscar
explain
need
away.
to but he has to serve his 5-second time penalty.
But he does, doesn't he? Well, yes, that's a very, very good point. Three places, probably. And Singapore is so difficult to overtake on.
I'm gonna have to
Maybe we need to revisit this.
we
Maybe it's
need
going to be Lando, Max, Leclerc.
I'm gonna go with Lando, Charles, Max. Forgot about the 5 seconds.
Yes, shame. Poor Oscar. It's not going to be easy. But yeah, Lando would need. It would be great for Lando if he can have two or three cars in between him and Oscar.
Thanks for joining us. We had a lot of fun doing this race recap. There was so much to cover, and hopefully the drama and action continues in Singapore. Until then, talk to you later.